Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving deep into the incredibly rich and, let's be honest, often perplexing world of Franz Kafka. You've sent us just a treasure trove of his writings, letters, critical note. And our mission, as always, is to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight from this, well, fascinating collection.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how these sources let us move beyond, just the famous stories. We can really explore the man himself, his often tortured creative process, and the unexpected, almost accidental journey his legacy took after he died. It gives such a complete picture, doesn't it? From the deeply personal struggles right through to the themes that just resonate universally, the whole Kafkaesque thing.
That's such a crucial distinction, because for many, Kafkaesque is just a feeling, right? A mood, maybe a bureaucratic nightmare. But what does it really mean when we actually look at the source material he left? We'll get into the paradoxes of a writer who apparently found his own creations infinitely repulsive and often just couldn't finish things, yet somehow gave us some of the most enduring and frankly unsettling stories in literature. What I found particularly striking, just going through the material again, was the man behind the prose. His personal letters, his diary, they offer such a stark contrast to that detached, almost clinical tone in his fiction. We learn about his incredibly complex, especially with Felice Bauer, whom he met back in August 12. Sources really reveal this often turbulent emotional and so far from that cool, sober, and very elegant style he defined as his ideal way back.
Oh, absolutely. His letters to Felice, for instance, they're just raw. They show a man who's deeply aware of his own, what he calls irritability and incurable dissatisfaction. He even wonders if these things tremble visibly in the strokes of his pen. Imagine writing that. And he called his writing an exceptionally repulsive story that sprang from the same heart in which Felice dwelled. It really makes you wonder, how did this intense inner turmoil fuel such distinctive art? It feels fundamental, not just back.
Right. And speaking of intensity, the sources highlight his writing process for The Judgment, described as a torrential composition written in a single night, just whoosh, like an explosive release. Yet, for the big ones, the longer works like The Trial, The Castle, America, he was notoriously incapable of sometimes going years, apparently, years at a time without writing a word of fiction. It's almost as if that opening out of the body and the soul, as he put it, was just maybe too painful to sustain for long periods. What do you make of that kind of dichotomy?
It's a profound one, definitely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the struggle with completion, these painful battles, they aren't just quirks, They seem hinted at in his aphorisms too, particularly aphorism 69. He talks about believing in an indestructible element in oneself, but crucially, not striving toward it. Think of it like there's this inherent, fundamental, basic yes to existence inside. We just are. But the challenge, the real painful battle, is working one's way through all the layers of doubt, anxiety, external pressure to actually reach and act on that underlying which sounds a lot like his creative process, right? And his trouble finishing those grander visions.
That makes sense. And his relationship with his family, especially his father, wow, that looms incredible. The letter to his father, it's described as a 100-page lawyer's letter, basically indicted, blaming him for the whole tangle of aborted literary projects and frustrated his father's famous lines, like, when I was only 7, I had tan carp. They just illustrate that dynamic Kafka felt completely suffocated by. It paints such a clear... Okay, so given all this background, what does it all mean when we actually look at the characters? Sources give us a fantastic lens to understand the Kafkaesque beyond just a vague... Let's start with Gregor's, the metamorphosis. Mm-hmm. The sheer physicality of his transformation is so striking. Lying on the carpet, his little legs are jigging, sticky soles leaving marks as he figures out how to crawl on walls.
And that visceral depiction is key because the metamorph text really details the family's changing reaction. That's where the true Kafkaesque insight hits home. Initially, the sister acts as a caretaker. She even notes Gregor liked his dinner. There's some connection, but it shifts so dramatically from care to, absolute dehumanization. You have the charwoman, this gigantic, bony charwoman with white hair, who has this chillingly indifferent perspective, just calls him old dirty beef. And then the sister's eventual declaration, you must just try to get rid of the idea that this is Gregor. If this were Gregor, he would have realized long ago that human beings can't live with such a creature, and he'd have gone away on his own accord. That's pivotal. This progression from care to act, almost deliberate dehumanization, it offers such a profound insight. The Kafkaesque isn't just about weird transformations happening. It's about how society, even family, can strip away your humanity. It shows how alienation can be actively enforced by the people closest, not just an internal...
Wow. Yeah, enforced. That's a powerful point. Then there are the absurd systems, the authorities he portrays. In the trial, Joseph K. is arrested, no action, the whole process shrouded, total fog. His lawyer relies on personal contacts with civils who are themselves dependent on. It just hints at this convoluted, self-serving bureaucracy where influence trumps justice. We even get details about the two defense parent, acquittal, opponent, and the choice is just up to you. It feels like a system designed purely to entrap you, not to actually resolve it.
Exactly. And building on that idea of absurd system. In the penal colony gives us a truly chilling example. Kafka presents this terrifying machine, the harrow, that literally engraves the sentence onto the condemned man's body. It's described with this chilling, sadistic realism. It makes the abstract cruelty of a system horrifyingly tangible. And you see the old guard, represented by the officer, clinging to this brutal leg. He's battling against the new commandant's more benevolent reforms and the, quote, influences women have over. It's such a stark, almost visceral look at a fading, cruel order and the human cost of just blindly adhering to power.
And at the building of the Great Wall of China kind of continues this theme, doesn't it? Baffling infrastructure, but on this grander national scale, the wall's built in sections, which leads to great gaps. Gaps that were only filled slowly, bit by bit, and some apparently never been filled in at all. The paradox, of course, is that the wall, meant for defense, isn't continuous, making it unfit to be a defense and in constant danger. It feels like a fascinating reflection on the futility of these grand abstract projects when they run up against, well, practical human limits.
Which raises that important question, I think, about control versus chaos. You see it in The Burrow, too. The protagonist meticulously constructs this elaborate home, his safe space, yet he's plagued by this inescapable whistling noise. It reflects this deep anxiety that persists despite all his efforts to impose order. He struggles endlessly to figure out his cause, highlighting the futility of systematic investigation when faced with unknown, uncontrollable disturbances. It's like a microcosm of the human desire for safety in a world that fundamentally resists being fully controlled.
And it's not just human protagonists, is it? His animal characters often delve into these really deep existential questions. Josephine the singer, or the mouse folk, explores the very nature of art and perception. Like, is Josephine truly singing, or is she just piping like everyone else?
Right.
And the mouse folk, described as an unmusical race, they interpret her frail creature status as meaning she needs their care. So they do not laugh at Josephine because it would be a breach of duty. The story just beautifully highlights that often vast gap between how an artist sees themselves and how the audience interprets them. Even support can be a kind of misunderstanding.
And finally, the hunger artist. He embodies the alienated performer in maybe the most profound way. He knows that it was the easiest thing in the world for him to fast. It wasn't hard, yet people don't believe him. They suspect him of publicity or think he's a cheat. His inner dissatisfaction always rankled Kafka, and he never yet had he left the cage of his own free will. It's such a profound comment on the artist's internal world versus external validation. You know, how often our deepest truths, our easiest feats even, are just met with suspicion by the world. It makes you wonder, what price does an artist pay for their craft when the audience just doesn't get it?
That's such a powerful question. Okay, so the works themselves, incredibly complex, but what about their journey? It's amazing to think that without Max Brod, Kafka's major novels, The Trial, The Castle, America, they might never have seen the light of Gone Forever. Brod made pretty significant editorial, didn't he? Devising chapter headings for America where Kafka left, and even adding apparently 2 final passages that were clearly fragments from a subsequent never-completed chapter.
Right, and what's fascinating there is the tension. The tension between Kafka's own reluctance, his instructions to burn everything, and Brod's determination to ensure his friend got recognition after his premature death of tuberculosis. As the notes say, primarily concerned with the broad line of the story, not with philological input, which means, he focused on getting the overarching narrative out there, published, not necessarily on the meticulous scholarly exam text, which is why his editorial choices are still debated by academics. We really have him to thank for having access to so much of Kafka.
And this recognition just exploded, didn't it? Into a global Kafka craze, particularly in the U.S. after World War II. Translations, reissues by publishers like Schocken Books, who actually moved to New York in 1940 and put Kafka right at the center of their program. That led to his works appearing in many other languages.
Yep.
And Hannah Arendt famously observed that Kafka had come to share Marx's fate. Though during his lifetime he could not make a decent living, he will now keep generations of intellectuals both gainfully employed and well-fed.
It's almost ironic, isn't it? How a writer who struggled so much in life became such a cultural titan after his death.
It really is. And you see his legacy physically manifested in modern Prague. Monuments like Franz Kafka's head right outside a 21st century shopping mall. It's a striking visual, yeah. Shows how his work keeps resonating in these unexpected ways, even with, as the source notes, a confusing tangle of languages and national affiliations on memorials like that. This whole transformation from personal struggle and a unique literary voice into such a universal, enduring cultural touchstone, it's truly remarkable. Yeah. From those deeply personal vexations in his letters to the universal anxieties depicted in his stories, Kafka really does offer a mirror to the human condition. His precise, often unsettling narrative, they reveal the absurdity, the struggle of navigating complex systems, and, our own internal worlds, too.
Exactly. His work challenges us, I think, to look beyond the surface, to question authority maybe, and to try and find meaning even when we're feeling disoriented. This deep dive into Kafka's sources really shows that his secret connection, as he might have thought of them, are now pretty openly available for all of us to explore.
So maybe the next time you encounter a seemingly insurmountable bureaucratic hurdle, or just a situation that feels inexplicably illogical, you might just have an aha moment and think, what does it mean to confront something truly Kafkaesque in your own life? And maybe more interestingly, what unexpected insights might you gain from it if you choose to kind of lean into that rather than just letting it overwhelm you?
Yeah.